Welcome back to the last segment of the Loner Ranger Show. I'm so sad I gotta go. We got 15 minutes and we got a lot to cover. I promised I'd cover the latest of what is going on with the tax relief. So I want to get into that. But before I do, I want to talk a little bit about W-2 wage earners that are higher income earners, maybe 150, 300, 500. And you look at that and you're paying 35% in taxes and you're like, how can I get that down? I'm an advocate of buying real estate, but buying real estate as investment properties isn't a full solution to really do a lot to get your taxes down. It does it a little bit because of depreciation, but there's other things that you can do. So how would you best be able to write off expenses and depreciation on a rental property? By short-term rental. That's right. See, long-term rental is considered passive income, so that there's not a lot of room to be able to write things off. But when you write off, when it's a short-term rental in less than 7 days, it's a game changer. So let's just say you're making 300 to 500 or even $1 million a year, W-2, and you're making great money, and Uncle Sam loves you. Okay. You probably get a Christmas card from him. The problem, W-2 wage earners have fewer tax deductions than business owners. Traditional rental properties just don't cover the losses and generally are passive. So high income earners generally can't simply buy a traditional rental and deduct the loss against their salary. But short-term rentals can be different. Under federal passive activity rules, when the average consumer stays 7 days or less, the activity isn't treated as a rental activity for those rules. So if the taxpayer also legitimately and materially participates, losses may be potentially be non-passive. And that's why this strategy can be interesting for some high income W-2 wage earners. Now, great for self-employed too, but self-employed, we have a bunch of ways we can get our income deferred. We can reduce it by expensive, but W-2 by expenses, but W-2 wage earners don't have that ability. So it's not automatic and does need to be structured with a qualified tax professional, but I can connect you with the right people and I can show you how to do it. Let's just talk about what can create legitimate deductions: mortgage interest, property taxes, insurance, operating expenses. So operating expenses on a short-term rental, you can really drive them up. Repairs, depreciation, potential accelerated depreciation through cost segregation. So there's all kinds of ways. You can do the Augusta rule on your primary. There's all kinds of ways we can help with that. So if you're not familiar with the Augusta rule, give me a call. If you are a wage earner and you are looking for ways to reduce your taxes, I am not a CPA or a tax professional. I'm going to tell you that right now, but I can tell you what I do. I can't give you legal advice for that, but I'll connect you with the right people that can. I'm a mortgage guy, not a CPA. Don't buy an Airbnb because Bruce said you're getting a giant tax deduction. Talk to a CPA first. But if your CPA says short-term rental real estate belongs in your tax strategy, that's when you and I need to talk about leverage and financing. Okay. Stop just making money. Start converting some of that income into assets. High income W-2 wage earners, get your CPA, financial advisor, and mortgage strategist talking to each other. The problem is a lot of them don't talk to each other. I connect everybody together. I talk to my client CPAs. If real estate belongs in the plan, call me at 813-213-4009. That's 813-213-4009, or go to webringyouhome.com. All right, let's talk about Amendment 3. Not now, the elections gets really interesting because the primaries are now over. Now we know what's going to be going on in November. And the property taxes are about to become one of the biggest issues in Florida. Now, a lot of the Democrats and naysayers and haters, which they call the Republicans haters, but they're the haters. They're the ones screaming affordability, but they don't want to do anything about it. All they want to do is point fingers. It's ridiculous. So Amendment 3, the proposal would substantially increase the homestead exemption for non-school property taxes on homesteaded properties. Year one, $150,000. Year two, another $250,000. So if you owned a $300,000 house and it's assessed at $250,000, you'd essentially pay no homestead taxes other than your school taxes. It would not eliminate school taxes. I'm just telling you. And because it's constitutional amendment, it needs a 60% approval from the voters. And here's some important development. A judge ruled the original ballot titled and summarized where it was too political. They thought it was a little misleading and ordered it to be rewritten. So the state complied rather than appealing. They removed original promotional style language and produced a more neutral description. Governor DeSantis still believes the proposal can reach a 60% vote, but it's not the original proposal. Is it perfect? Heck, no, it's not perfect. I'm not going to tell you it is. It's not what I would have originally wanted, but it's a stepping stone. You're not going to get everything you want right out of the gate, particularly when you got all these naysayers and haters saying they're going to have to lay off the police and they're going to lay off the fire department and we're not going to have any money for the parks and the infrastructure and other local services. Bumpkiss. I don't believe it. I think that there's plenty of money and you won't have to lay off police or fire departments. So here's the reason why I believe that. First of all, I would not vote yes on this if I thought that any cop or fireman was going to be laid off, unless they just have too many of them. Then that could be, maybe they need to do that, but I don't think that's the case. So I argue for it that Florida homeowners have watched property taxes climb. They're ridiculous. And people are losing their homes that they have lived in for years because the taxes keep going up. Housing affordability isn't just the rate. It's the insurance, the taxes, the HOA, maintenance, and increasing the exemption would provide some meaningful relief to homesteaded owners. I believe I'm for it. Now, some people are against it because they say that they're going to have to lay out police, fire, and infrastructure and other things. I don't believe that's the case, and I wouldn't vote for it if I thought it was. The problem with this bill is there's no clear direction on where they're going to make up the money. But I'm still going to say yes. And I advise you to vote yes on this. But I'm going to tell you what that proposal actually does. And I'm not going to tell you that Amendment 3 is going to eliminate your property taxes completely, because it doesn't. So now we know who's in the governor race. Republican Byron Donalds won, okay, by 48%. Okay, so he's right up there. He beat Jay Collins, and he was endorsed by Trump. Okay, none of these guys, the Republicans, were endorsed by DeSantis. They were when they got in originally, but not now. So here's the deal. Donalds has emphasized lower property taxes, so he's going to continue to push this. He's also focused on lowering Florida's insurance. It's already come down between 10 and 14%. If you go to my YouTube page, go to Bruce Woodburn, the Lone Ranger, and watch the interview I did with Michael Yowalski, the insurance commissioner of Florida. I did a whole interview with him. Man, there's insurance companies that now there's 150 insurance companies in Florida that have sent in their petition to lower their rates. You do realize they can't just lower them arbitrarily. They have to get permission from the state to make sure they can comply with the proper reserves. Now, on the Democratic side, you got David Jolly, who used to be a Republican, but he won by 61% in this. So now he's a flip-flopper. He's all over the place, and he doesn't have any real, in my opinion, he's got no real plan. But Jolly was a Republican. He's now a Democratic nominee. He says that he's middle of the road, but I think he's going a little hardliner on that. So He says he's not that more nonpartisan, but I don't believe it. And the Senate race got real interesting as well because Ashley Moody will face the Democratic nominee Angie Nixon. Nixon pulled off a major upset against Alex Vindman, despite that Alex had a huge amount of money put into their campaign. But here's the deal: Nixon, she wants Medicare for all. Okay. Now, if you're worried about being retired and your Medicare going away, it's a good way it's going to happen. She wants to raise the federal minimum wage to $25. She wants higher taxes on billionaires. She wants universal free health care for children and child care. And she wants national rent freeze. So she wants to freeze rents. If you did that, every landlord, I would take all my properties and sell them, and you'd have nowhere to live. And that's what would happen. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know what? And here's the problem. I know a lot of people are really feeling the strain right now. By the way, call me and I can help you with any of this. 813-213-4009 or go to webringyouhome.com. So here's the thing. You can't freeze rents. That's totally communist. You can't do that. There has to be some way that landlords can if you froze my rent and my interest rate went up, my taxes go up, then I can't afford to make my mortgage payment then. How's that going to work? You can't do that. And any places that have ever freezed rent in the future, what they did is they forced everybody. You couldn't get a place. You couldn't rent a place. So they just sold them, right? And there's nowhere to rent. And that has happened before. It's not a good idea. Then when it comes to raising, here, give you an example. They already raised minimum wage all across the board. All the states did it. They all raised their minimum wage. Guess what happened after that? Inflation. So you can raise minimum wage, but now you got to raise the cost of the product. So it doesn't ever solve a problem raising minimum wage. It's never solved the problem and it never will. It sounds good if you're down low on the scale on minimum wage, then I highly suggest you get a better job because it's not going to fix the problem. I could give you $100 an hour minimum wage and you're going to pay $150 for a hamburger. It's the same thing. It doesn't work, folks. Listen, you know what works? Hard work, dedication, and a little bit of grit. So I don't tell you this. If you know me, I'm a 10th grade dropout. I was orphaned at 16 years old. I had no money. I've literally gone without food. I couldn't feed my dog. I couldn't pay a car payment, had a car repossessed. When I was I've been at the end, I've been at the rock bottom. So I don't come from a place of wealth. I have built wealth through a lot of hard work, like a lot of hard work. And some of my work paid off and some of it didn't, but I stuck with it. And I suggest that you do the same. As soon as you start making excuses, you have no way to get out. You're done. You are just making excuses, and I don't go for it. I don't go for it. It's not worth it. It's not going to get you anywhere. Call me if you don't want excuses and you want the real deal. I'd love to help you with your next mortgage to purchase, refinance, debt consolidation, build your new home. Maybe you're a builder and you'd like to put some specs in the ground. If you've got the reputation, you got the experience, then I can help you with that. Call me at 813-213-4009 or go to webringyouhome.com and check out my website. My name is Bruce Woodburn. I'm the Loan Arranger. I can help you with any type of mortgage you want that has to do with residential property. I don't do a commercial, but I'm here to help you and your family and your friends. God bless each and every one of you for listening to my show. I'm privileged to have you as clients. I'm privileged to have you as listeners, and I appreciate you sticking with me for this hour. I really do. Have a great weekend.